Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome back to another health update video. I'm still kind of going through it, so today's video is going to be a little bit negative. We're going to recap how I found myself in this situation, what's going on right now, and how the future treatments are looking. So as a quick recap, many of you know that for years I had low testosterone, as in almost none, like off the charts low, but without a clear cause. Later discovered that I had thiamine deficiency or vitamin B1. It's a pretty rare deficiency, but a nasty one. And even after treating that, I didn't get better, went back to doctors and tested positive for 2 rare parasites. Plus I broke my back in the middle of all this and it didn't quite heal right. The symptoms I'm currently fighting are joint pain, joint laxity or looseness of joints. They pop out and sprain and double and bend back pretty easily. Nerve pain, mood swings, temperature sensitivity, Raynaud's in the extremities, digestion issues, fatigue, and low-quality sleep. I spent about 2.5 years not being able to move or do hardly anything properly, and the parts of my body that are most affected are my hands, and the second most affected are my feet. It's that peripheral neuropathy. I lost most of the nerve tissue in my hands and it's in the process of regrowing. And a lot of you have comments about this glorious hair that I've got going on. I don't know what got into me. I think my back hurts so bad I avoid barbers. And then I got this crazy idea that I'm only going to cut this hair when I figured the problem out and we're really getting well and better. And you can see that it's it's been a while. And I know that this Texas summer is going to be hot. So that little get a cool haircut as a reward for getting well is probably going to go bye-bye, and I'm probably going to get like a practical one soon so I don't just sweat. The treatments I've gone through are supplementing vitamin B1, which massively improved my nerve pain and fatigue. I did antibiotics for the parasites, which improved joint pain, temperature, digestion, and sleep, but that didn't last, unfortunately, which brings us to where we are today. Sometimes when you do this round of treatment, you don't kill all of the parasites, which means they might come back months after treatment, and that's basically what happened to me. I took all the meds, I felt better, I was happier, I was doing more things, I started physical therapy, building my strength back up, but after about 2 months, my symptoms started to return, minor at first and then bigger over time. At about 3 months, I decided to recheck for parasites and tested positive again for the same ones. I'll put the document on the screen right here somewhere around me. I don't know exactly how all this is going to be edited, but this is the laboratory results that I got back. As you can see, it says that I'm positive for both Babesia and Bartonella, which are tick-borne illnesses. I think Bartonella is a bacteria, and Babesia is like a protozoan or something. It's like technically a very tiny animal. They both have a tendency to take up residency in your blood and in your joints, and they're notoriously hard to test for and detect, and notoriously hard to treat. So this is kind of like the worst possible news I could get, that my first round of treatment did not work. Not super happy about that, but that's what I get to live with. I was really hoping, I was starting to feel worse before this information came back, and I was like, man, maybe I just don't like winter. Maybe I'm just lonely. Maybe I'm butthurt I can't play CoD. Maybe I'm having a mental breakdown and I just need to go and say a prayer and take an SSRI, and then the test comes back exactly what I didn't want to see, positive for parasites again. So the next phase of treatment is basically the same as the first phase of treatment, but more intense. I'm going to be taking a cocktail of antibiotics, very strong ones, for at least 1 month, maybe up to 3 months, depending on how I tolerate it. I tolerated them pretty well last time, so this time is expected to be a little harder. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. There is one new medicine added to it this time. Don't know how that's going to treat me. I'll be taking higher doses. Doing this is going to completely annihilate my stomach bacteria. I'm going to have some awful poops for a long time. I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'm going to do it because if this fails, if this next round of treatment doesn't work, or I get sick or worse or something, I have to fly out of state to a specialist. There's nobody in the entire state of Texas that can really help me with what I've got. In the entire state of Texas, to the best of my knowledge this year, I'm the only person to have this particular type of infection. I get turned down right and left at hospitals. They tell me we're not qualified, we can't do this, go out of state. But I broke my back. I can't sit very long without very severe, very long-lasting pain. So travel is very hard. If I have to go out of state, that means I probably have to charter a medical flight, which is unfortunately very expensive, and I don't want to do that. So that's the more very technical, less emotional analysis of what's going on. The question is, how are you doing? How are you holding up, bud? And my answer to that is that I'm doing better, but even my better is still pretty rough. We'll do some of the good news first and then save some of the bad for the end. First of all, physical therapy is working. I am getting objectively stronger. I can lift more weights. I can do more things. I'm able to do a little bit more with my body. The downside is that I'm getting stronger and better much, much slower than expected. With the type of, at least mechanical injuries that I have, you would expect a pretty significant recovery in 3 to 4 months. In 3 or 4 months of doing PT, I have gained maybe 5 minutes of extra sitting time and 0 minutes of extra laying down time. So my progress is incredibly slow. I'm gaining like a minute per month. It's a similar story with my hands. They're improving, but that improvement is really slow, and it's still very, very easy to injure. My hands will come back to that later. And with the exception of mood swings days, my mind is a lot clearer. Supplementing vitamin B1 and removing the parasites have given me a clearness of mind that I have literally never had in my entire life. I feel like way less stressed. I feel like I have more processing power up here. And I've had no nightmares since I started taking the antibiotics, which is huge. I will admit as recently as last night, the dreams are increasing in intensity over time. They're getting a little spookier by the week, and I have a feeling it's only a matter of time before I do have a nightmare again. But I had night terrors my whole life, like wake up yelling and stuff like that. I took these antibiotics and that stopped cold turkey immediately and has not really resumed. I can deal with temperature changes more easily. I can deal with heat better. I can deal with cold better. And not all of it, but the vast majority of the nerve pain is gone, especially in my hands. I just have joint pain in my hands now. Previously, I went through a process called demyelinization, which a little bit of an exaggeration, but to keep it simple, it's when your nerves start to disintegrate on their own. It's what people with Guillain-Barré have. So I got the luxury of spending about a year of my life with the sensation of constantly being on fire as if I were literally in hell. That's gone. We don't have to deal with that. That is the most important. That is like the best benefit of all the medical treatment I've had ever, is making that go away. That was a nightmare. So the gist of that is that I'm doing better and I'm getting better, but it's really slow. And the bad news is that a lot of the older things haven't entirely gone away. My joints are all still very loose. They sprain very easily. I'm talking like if a jar is really tight and I put force on it to open it, and I have the strength to do that, but it might pop my wrist out of place, or I might dislocate or strain or sprain various tendons and joints in my hands. I kid you not, I don't even know if I can pick this up high enough. This is an Elgato Stream Deck. I have sprained fingers and made them useless for days because I pressed one of these buttons too hard. Or like when you're in a chair and you put your hands down to push yourself up. I have to be a little particular about that and have good form because my joints aren't strong enough to actually do that. Of course, that means I have very limited use of my computer, mobile phone, controllers, books, almost anything you do with your hands. I've got pretty hard time limit on. So I try to make my gaming time and just sort of living my lifetime really count. My ankles, foot, and toes aren't much better than the hands. Basically what happens there is I get foot injuries all the time. I don't know why. I can just walk around my house. I can do a very normal thing. We're not doing weights or lifting or running. And some days my ankles just go and they're just done, or my metatarsals or toes. It's very weird and very annoying. Still pretty limited on driving and travel. It's hard for me to get out of state. I think that's all stuff more details from the good news section. I do have one bad one. We got to talk about mood swings. In the last month or two, my mood swings have returned, and the best way to describe them is they feel hormonal, almost as if I'm having a period or going through menopause. Temperature will go up and down real fast, and I'll sort of be forced to feel things for no reason, not for a logical reason. It feels like my brain just dumps all of its adrenaline at once, and I get super agitated and jittery and worked up and energetic. That's the most common thing. Sometimes it'll be a mood swing of a positive emotion for no reason, but it's probably about a 10-to-1 ratio negative to positive mood swings. Had some experiences with mania, not great. Thankfully, these don't really last more than 24 hours, but when they hit, they're pretty intense. I start thinking some kind of crazy stuff. I'm usually able to recognize this, clamp down my emotions, and I tend to withdraw from people until it passes for reasons we're about to get into. But, sometimes here in the real world, you do have to interact with people, whether you're feeling good or not. And I'm ashamed to admit that I'm not always myself during those times. There have been a number of times where I have not been the greatest husband or friend or family member, and that's putting it pretty mildly. I have a tendency to say some pretty wild stuff when one of those moods hits me. What you see of me on camera, on social media, on stream, here in videos, are good days. Days where I know everything is normal and I can sit down and have a conversation and not spiral off into something unpleasant. But unfortunately, the mood swings have been bad enough to be the primary driver behind my decision to socially withdraw. I'm not as outgoing as I used to be. I rarely entertain friends or guests. I'm also not able to physically do very much, so I can't like go out and do things. I don't want people to come over and see me just laying in my bed stinking it up, and I certainly don't want people to come over and it be a bad day and I just say something god awful because I'm having a mood swing and it's hard to control. I don't want to implode my interpersonal relationships and just I'm struggling to hold on to what I've got, right? Like I don't need to make it worse. And I know that's not super healthy. I know that withdrawing from socialization is bad and you're supposed to have a support network and those things. But I'm still choosing to do it because the mood swings are bad enough where I could tank a relationship in like 30 seconds flat if it were a bad enough day, and I'm not going to do that. But no, I'm not a total shut-in. I still socialize. I still see people on the internet, just a lot less than I used to. You can add this on top of being in nearly constant, at least 4 out of 10 pain. Physical activities are a little hard. So yeah, I know that even hearing that, it's obvious that my mental health isn't great. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that it is. That would be total nonsense. I'm very stressed, very depressed, those kinds of things. But I think that given the circumstances, given the insane circumstances of this situation, to have an absolutely brutal disease that's difficult to treat, that you can't get treatment for in the state, that affects your mind, that you can't walk right or hold things in your hand or eat food normally for years and years and years, I should be totally cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, okay? I should be like dissociating from reality, depressed to the point where I never get out of my bed. But I think I just have like regular depression, like the regular downs. It's not great, but I think I'm dealing with it like super well. You know, it would be like seeing a man who's injured pretty bad and bleeding, and you were like, "What happened?" And he was like, "Man, I got hit by a Tomahawk missile." And you look and say, "You know, all things considered, you're doing great." I got probably a dozen other small issues that aren't worth talking about. I got weird growths in my arm. All these lumps are growing in my forearm. I don't know what to do about that. So the bad section may have been bigger than what I want, and it may have been bad, but I want you all to know that I'm not quitting. I'm still doing physical therapy several days a week, even with the parasites in me, and it still seems to be working a bit. I walk half a mile every day with my fat dog. I'm doing all sorts of stretches and walking and little exercises at home. I've completed occupational therapy, completed aquatic therapy, completed regular emotional therapy to make sure I'm not losing my mind. I have multiple doctors, serious, like best in the state type people overseeing my vitamin supplementation to help me through this process because we have various deficiencies going on. I've been eating healthier than I've ever eaten in my entire life. More recently, last couple of weeks, it's been a little higher calorie because I can't seem to maintain weight. Even if I eat a lot, I'm still just kind of very slowly losing weight. But I am eating very, very healthy. Not junk food, not sodas, no caffeine, no alcohol, none of that stuff. It's a lot of like lean meat and potatoes and vegetables, things kind of like that. Also helps that my stomach has been a lot less sensitive recently, so I can eat spicy again, thank God. But that's slowly reversing. It's getting more sensitive. So what I wanted to tell you is like, yeah, I had a lot to complain about here. A lot of bad things are going on, but I don't want you to think I'm quitting. I'm not going to roll over and die. I'm not going to give up on my life. I'm not giving up on this channel. I'm not giving up on, my relationships or things I want to accomplish. I'm just down bad, been in a bad spot. I literally have to fight and like claw tooth and nail my way up and try to make things work. And that's still the process I'm in. No matter, things have been outrageously bad. And I think a more reasonable person probably would have quit a long time ago and just, I don't know, shriveled up and died, just give up. Honestly, I want to a lot, but some weird broken thing in my head is just pushing me to continue to push past all of this, to continue to fight through, to continue. I'm pretty much gonna fight this till my dying breath. I'm either gonna get better or die. That's so not, I wanted this to be like a positive thing. That's so not positive, but that's how things are going here. Content's still going to flow. Gaming's still going to flow. We're still very busy for social media and for streams and stuff like that. So you can check those out if you want. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And if you're curious about more specific details about the parasites and deficiencies and stuff like more medical knowledge, there's other videos linked down below or in the playlist that this is likely to be a part of. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for sticking with my channel through all of this unpleasantness. Drifter out.